I was just talking to a girl, and there was a boy who was sitting next to her, and for some reason the girl didn't speak to him, and he got upset and brought the police and said these two are plotting against the wonderful nation of Bulgaria or something like that. And therefore I was put in a room 8 foot by 8 foot without food or water for about 72 hours. Then I was put on a freight train to Istanbul, and they finally said, you are from a friendly country called India, and that's why we are letting you go. And then I said, if this system treats friends like this, I don't want to be part of this system. And that's when I realized that the only way countries like India can solve the problem of poverty is by entrepreneurship.
You know, a lot of your founding principles were laid. Your father also was a teacher.
Yes, he
so you
was,
must have grown up with a lot of strong ideas as to, you know, as to values and disciplines.
Yeah, well, I think discipline was extremely important because father always made sure that we were very disciplined. Second, I think respect for teachers, respect for scholarship was immense in our house. For example, I couldn't stand in front of my principal those days. I remember when I got the scholarship, which was the National Scholarship for Studies, I had to go in front of the principal and sign.
Right.
And my hand was trembling, and I signed in a very peculiar way. And the principal then said, look, you have to sign like that for the rest of your life. And then I went home and practiced it so many times. Even today I sign like that. The way I have measured fairness is through the golden rule. Do unto others what you want them to do unto you. As long as that is acceptable, then that is fair. That is the way I have defined fairness, that is following the golden rule.
So that you would be able to say to a colleague, that judgment, that rule applies to me as equally as to you.
Exactly. I think that is where, you know, I am a great fan and admirer of Mahatma Gandhi, whose greatest virtue was leadership by example. Whatever values he wanted his colleagues to follow, he first demonstrated those values in action himself, and then automatically other people would follow them. If I want people to come to the office on time, if I came to the office on time, then I don't need to tell anybody. Everybody will be watching a leader. All the eyes will be on the leader. Similarly, if I want people to be honest, I don't have to tell them to be honest, I have to be honest. So therefore, leadership by example or value demonstration by example is the best way that you can communicate values in a very profound way.
Key moments that really influenced you from your early days, from your childhood days.
My father always wanted all of us not just to study but even to play, because for example, when he was the high school headmaster, he would close the gate of the school at 4:30 when the school got over, and he insisted that everybody must play till 6 o'clock. There used to be senior, junior, sub-junior teams in everything, in soccer, in basketball, everything. And because he always believed that a healthy body is as essential as a healthy mind.
You had 6 colleagues, the founding fathers. Were you all computer techies?
Yes, they all worked with me. They were much junior to me at a company called PCS in Mumbai.
And you brought the team together to do what?
There was a huge opportunity for software to be developed for corporations because hardware had become cheaper. And we realized that in India there were lots of engineers who did not have job opportunities. Therefore, we said, why don't we build a company that focuses on developing bespoke software applications for customers in developed nations.
You started the company and you had a hard time because India was not open to the outside world, was it?
Those days, the government was very business unfriendly. It took us a year to get a telephone connection. We used to have a joke, and that is, half the people in the country are waiting for a telephone, the other half are waiting for a dial tone. And second, it took us 3 years to get a license to import a computer.
And that was what you were about. You needed a computer to do the job you were doing.
Absolutely. So the environment was extremely business unfriendly. But then we said, look, there is a huge global opportunity, and therefore we should stick with it. We stuck with it, and God has been kind to us.
You had a little money behind you, your wife's money, didn't you?
Yeah, we just put together 10,000 rupees, or about $250, not much.
To start the company?
Yeah, absolutely.
That was enough to keep you going for about 2 months, was it?
No less than 2 months.
You know, you've always been very grounded, very down to earth. You've been known for that. It's such a unique part of your identity. How have you managed to retain that?
Well, you know, one of the things that I have always enjoyed is interaction with a wide variety of people in the company and outside too. Whether they are attenders in my company, whether they are clerks, whether they are directors, it doesn't matter. And therefore, when you start interacting with a wide portfolio of people, it becomes easy for one to be well grounded.
Well, it was extremely difficult in the beginning, because at that point of time, the general belief in the US or amongst the software experts was that software could not be developed even from the next building. It had to be in the same building. And therefore, when we went to them and said we would develop software 8,000 miles away, they were very nice. They smiled at us. They gave us a cup of tea and then said, you know, don't call us, we'll call you. That kind of stuff.
I remember, perhaps this is the class where we used to attend our Sanskrit course, and I was quite naughty with the professor. I would give him very complex sentences and ask him to translate them and explain how the translated version related to the original version. And the professor I had in Sanskrit, Professor Gopal Rao, was truly a magician. He would translate it in a jiffy and then explain it so well. And for the next 10 minutes, I would be zapped. Say, oh my God, when will I become like him? No, I think that is very important for our teachers to demonstrate that kind of magic, that kind of knowledge, and let youngsters say, oh, I want to be like him.
What do you think is lacking in our education system or in pockets of the system?
Well, I think there are many things that we could do. First of all, we need teachers who bring that wow factor in students. We need to reduce pressure on students to perform because they must find that learning is a big joy. We need to get to problem-solving orientation. We need more and more interaction in the class. We want students to be active in learning. We want students to ask a lot of questions rather than be passive and writing down notes. Once you create that hunger in students, once you create that curiosity in students, then the mind will blossom.
And there's no stopping them after
Absolutely, absolutely.
What I want to know is whether Narayan Murthy feels satisfied with where Infosys is today.
Not really, because as I often say, and in fact I said that even on the 25th year celebration of Infosys founding in Mysore, I said we have taken the initial few steps because in my opinion
a corporation must exist for literally 100, 200 years before it can say it has arrived. So, on that scale, we are still toddlers.
Do you think it's difficult, more difficult now when you call yourself a toddler still? Or was it actually more difficult early on? Does the level of difficulty in managing a company actually increase with scale?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think when we were very small, our resources were limited. There was so much of friction to business in the country. There were all kinds of limitations on us. Today, when we are much bigger, we have a lot more resources, we have a lot more facilities. The friction to business in India is much less. We have much better global exposure, all of that. However, there are different kinds of challenges. So, I think you have different sets of challenges in different orbits.
But do you think that today, doing well in school is important, or is it more a matter of, sort of attitude, as you were saying earlier, being aspirational, having that drive?
Well, I think today, because we have realized that doing well in studies is so important for good job opportunities, for succeeding in competitive examinations, and there are so many competitive examinations starting right from pre-university onwards. Therefore, we have made life very difficult for children. But during our time, there was no such thing. Studies was just part of life, and therefore it was fun.
Yes.
And our parents really didn't bother whether we studied X hours or Y hours, not at all.
You were also the fifth, right?
Yes,
Fifth
yes,
child?
yes.
How was it growing up in a house with so many children?
Oh, it was wonderful.
Yeah.
Mother used to be very busy in the kitchen all the time, from morning to evening cooking. Therefore, if somebody fell sick, it was the sisters that looked after.
everybody.
And the brothers, elder brother, who disciplined us, and therefore it was a great feeling, because I was always surrounded by the other 6 or 7 people, and it was lots of fun. Sharing was very easy. Sharing was very easy. Sacrificing came naturally, so it had advantages. What was very clear in our mind right from day one was that we would seek respect from every one of our stakeholders: customers, employees, investors, vendor partners, government of the land, and the society. Because our logic was, if we sought respect from every one of these stakeholders, revenues would automatically come, profits would come, etc.
What did you do at that time when you wanted to have a treat or, be naughty? Did you, what did you do?
Well, it's we used to do some work for our mother, and like for example, we'd go out and bring firewood or saw or something like that, and therefore we used to get a little bit of money from her because we did a lot of work. And then we would go with our friends and go to a restaurant and eat a masala dosa, which is a big deal. I think, even today, I find that the ability to derive pleasure from small things in life are extremely important, and you have to retain that, otherwise life becomes boring.
I believe there was also a moment in your corporate life in, I think 1990, when all of you co-founders were ready to call it a day, and there was actually an offer for $1 million. But you actually stood out and convinced everybody to go along with the idea of Infosys. Where did you find the strength at that stage to go on?
Well, my view was that we had already run this marathon for about 9 years. We had made lots of sacrifices. We had already gotten used to making lots of sacrifices, living very simply. Our wives were very cooperative. They had already given up on us, and then we said, from now onwards it should be easy. Why don't we continue a little bit more on this journey? So That was really, there was a lot of upside, but there's hardly any downside. And that's how I, in some way, prevailed upon my colleagues to continue this journey.
I have a slightly indelicate question. I once read somewhere that when you go home in the evenings, you clean the lavatory at home. Is that right?
Yes, I do that. Well,
To show your humility, or because it needs cleaning, or what?
No, you see, we have a caste system in India where the so-called lowest caste was a set of people who cleaned the toilets. And my father believed that that caste system is the wrong one. And therefore, he made all of us clean our toilets in the house. And that habit has continued. And I want my children to do that. And the best way to make them do is if you did it yourself.
At a personal level, what matters most to you? Is it what you've done for India's image globally, and indeed you and the technology industry have really done a lot for India's image globally? Is it the wealth that you've created and shared, or is it the new business paradigm that you've helped create? Of these three, which is the most meaningful?
Well, actually, in some sense, none of these. The thing that excites me most, the thing that gives highest satisfaction to all of us founders of Infosys, is the fact that we have raised the confidence of entrepreneurs in the country. By our example, these entrepreneurs would say, if these 7 jokers could do it, we can do it better. I think that is the biggest contribution of Infosys to the country, because entrepreneurship is all about creation of jobs, creation of wealth, creation of disposable income, thereby, stimulating the secondary and the tertiary sectors of the economy. And on that count, I think Infosys has done a pretty good job.